Elders, Chief and Council, and members of the Okanagan Indian Band, and to the Silex people as a whole, it's a great honor to join you today on the occasion of Remembrance Day. My name is Dan MacIsaac, and I'm a Brigadier-General in the Canadian Army. I would have preferred to be with you in person today, but COVID continues to frustrate our best intentions. I commend you for proceeding with this important remembrance of those who have sacrificed and continue to build the peaceful society needed for people's voices to be heard. When approached to assist with the OKIB Remembrance Day ceremony, I committed immediately for two reasons. First, it's important to recognize the significant contributions Indigenous people have made and continue to make to ensure Canada is strong, secure, and globally engaged. Second, family ties to the Vernon area and military relationships with a couple soldiers with connections to the Okanagan Indian Band have motivated me to ensure we collectively recognize Okanagan Indian Band's members' long and distinguished record of service in the Canadian Armed Forces. During the First World War, Second World War, Korean conflict, Cold War, and many other conflicts, thousands of Indigenous men and women voluntarily served in Canada's armed forces. OKIB members have been and are highly represented within the great numbers of Indigenous people from the BC interior. OKIB members have served with honor during the First World War, Second World War, as well as many other conflicts, and on missions at home and abroad. They served and serve with other Canadians in every theatre in which Canadian forces took and take part. More than 500 Indigenous soldiers have lost their lives in the two world wars, and the number of casualties, including those injured, was much higher. Their contributions to war efforts are a source of inspiration and pride for them, for their families, for Indigenous communities, and for all Canadians to recognize and honor. By the end of the First World War, Indigenous soldiers had served throughout the Army. Historian Fred Gaffin wrote of the many soldiers of Native ancestry who shone individually within the various battalions. This is in keeping with their traditional ways of life and cultures that hold individual heroism in an honorable cause in high esteem. The lore of the war maintains that during the First World War, Indigenous soldiers particularly distinguished themselves in difficult roles. Indigenous soldiers were respected as effective snipers and scouts, as they were adaptable and patient, with keen observation powers, stamina, and courage. From OKIB, we remember Johnny Harris and Billy Brewer, who gave their lives during the First World War, as well as the other members who helped defeat Canada's adversaries and bring peace. From 1939 to 1945, the Okanagan people once again answered the call, and we remember the 26 who enlisted for service in the Second World War. The Memory Project has captured Okanagan member John Marchand's vivid recollections of the Italian campaign, where he was an infantry Bren gunner in the Lanark and Renfrew Scottish Regiment. Mr. Marchand served in the Canadian Army from 1940 to 1945 and saw action in the Mediterranean, Italy, France, Belgium, Holland, and Germany. From OKIB, we also remember Albert Saddleman, Joseph Fraser, and Clarence Simpson, who did not return home. We honor all of them, their families, their community, and this band for your sacrifices. All told, the extent of Indigenous service during the Second World War was impressive. This participation also came at a cost, as many Indigenous people gave their lives. The voluntary contributions and sacrifices of the Okanagan and all Indigenous people testify to their support of Canada and the ideals and values for which we fought and strive to both remember and build upon. Indigenous people, including those from the Okanagan, also served in Korea, the Cold War, and more recent conflicts. Petty Officer Earl Charters joined the Canadian Armed Forces in 1989 and served 20 years as a military medic. He was born in Merritt and is one of 11 children. His mother Mary is a member of the Okanagan Indian Band, to which Earl also belongs. Petty Officer Charters also completed overseas duties in Rwanda, Bosnia, Southwest Asia, and Afghanistan. My wife is a military health services officer from Okanagan Landing. Both her and I have benefited from working with Earl in various places, and his hoop dancing has enriched our respect for your people's contributions to our Canadian identity. We thank Earl for his service to Canada during many difficult missions, and we also thank him for his leadership. The people of the Okanagan also made another sacrifice closer to home. The portions of the Okanagan Reserve lands that you may know as the Glen Emma and Goose Lake Ranges were used as military training areas. Although the training and exercises that took place was intended to prepare our forces and people to conduct military operations, the past military activities left their mark on the landscape. Canada recognizes that its activities and operations have the potential to affect the environment, and the Okanagan lands are no exception. We're working with your Chief and Council to restore your lands and ensure they're safe and available for future generations. Today, on Remembrance Day, we honor the service of all Canadians who defend our great country and remember those who paid the ultimate price and those who continue to sacrifice. The relationship between the Indigenous peoples and the Canadian Armed Forces is a special one, rooted in the warrior spirit and in service of nation. I'm humbled by the contributions of the Okanagan people and wanted to send this message of respect and admiration. I hope that your collective sacrifices are preserved and celebrated for many years to come, lest we forget.